tonight. The islands all but erased by Irma. Why the Equifax breach could happen again. And Kid Rock threatens to run.
Whatever you have between your legs should determine the bathroom that you use.
More than 20,000 people were evacuated from areas across Moscow today after simultaneous bomb threats targeted more than 20 train stations, universities, and shopping centers, including a famous department store in the Red Square. This is the latest in a string of hoax bomb threats called into more than 20 cities over the last week. Security services claim the calls are coming from Ukraine to create panic. South Korea's Nuclear Safety and Security Commission said today that traces of radioactive xenon gas it detected came from North Korea's nuclear test earlier this month. The commission was unable to confirm Pyongyang's claim that it tested a hydrogen bomb, but a new analysis by an American monitoring group says North Korea's sixth test may have been twice as strong as what was first reported, and about 17 times stronger than the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. Aung San Suu Kyi, the leader of Myanmar's civilian government, announced that she won't be attending the UN General Assembly in New York next week. Suu Kyi has come under intense criticism for denying that her country's military is trying to wipe out the Muslim Rohingya minority, a campaign that the UN has labeled ethnic cleansing. Suu Kyi says she's skipping the meetings to work on restoring stability in her country, even though she doesn't have control over the military. After this summer's failed attempts to overhaul Obamacare, Democrats and Republicans introduced competing healthcare bills today. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders proposed expanding Medicare into a universal healthcare insurance program, paid for by higher taxes.
Our job now is to take this legislation to every state in the country and to hear what the people have to say.
Senate Republicans, meanwhile, took another stab at amending the Affordable Care Act. Their legislation would get rid of the law's subsidies and tax credits and replace them with block grants to states.
If you believe repealing and replacing Obamacare is a good idea, this is your best and only chance to make it happen.
House lawmakers adopted 3 bipartisan measures aimed at reining in civil asset forfeiture, in a direct rebuke of Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Asset forfeiture allows police to confiscate property and cash from individuals, even in certain cases where they haven't been charged with a crime. The Obama administration had severely curbed the practice, but in July, Sessions announced a directive expanding it. The House amendments prohibit funding to implement Sessions' directive. The 3 measures are attached to a larger spending bill expected to be approved later this week. Hurricane Irma spared much of Florida from the worst damage, but the storm showed no mercy at all to the U.S. Virgin Islands and to the 100,000 American citizens who call it home. Antonia Hilton was one of the first reporters in St. Thomas and St. John, where the devastation is nearly complete.
Irma was completely different.
This is Tutu High Rise in Raz Valley, St. Thomas. Irma very literally ripped through these apartments and blew people's belongings into the rubble outside.
So this right here was the 1 bedroom?
Yeah, this was 1 bedroom here. This was where me and my daughter was staying and my puppy Nina. But she got blown out. Up to now I ain't seen the cage, but
your dog literally was blown out.
Yeah. This was my room. What's left of it. It was terrifying. A lot of wind. The wind was like it was just making music. Whew. The walls start going.
Do you feel at this point that you've received enough help from?
We haven't gotten any help. Nobody hasn't come to us as yet. No one.
FEMA hasn't come to you?
FEMA hasn't come.
Are you surprised that no one's come to help?
Yeah, because up to today counting is like 6 days and nobody ain't come to say nothing.
What's next for you and your family? Do you know where you're gonna stay? Do you know where you're going?
No, nothing. I still trying to keep a sane mind. That's the most thing, you know.
St. Thomas is usually the beating heart of the U.S. Virgin Islands and the seat of their government. But since Irma, life has ground to a halt, and residents in many areas are still in dire need of food and shelter. Governor Kenneth Mapp has spent the last week hopping between islands, coordinating the many strands of disaster relief. We grabbed a ride with him on his way to meet with the head of FEMA. Governor Mapp, what are the immediate needs you've seen across the islands?
We've gotten a tremendous amount of water and rations. We now have tarpaulins, a lot of very large tarpaulins people need for shelter. What we need really right now is to get the infrastructure lit up, diesel for keeping the generators going, and we're telling folks on the mainland that the VI needs help.
Do you have any sense of the percent of homes destroyed or properties that will need repair?
No, I don't. I don't, again, want to guess, but it looks like it's in excess of 50%.
In Coral Bay, St. John, a local fire station has become a distribution center for supplies. Shamara Capitolan comes here every day, looking for a tarp to cover her damaged roof. She had no luck again. Shamara and her fiancé Elderfield live only a 5-minute drive from here. They were cut off entirely for 4 days. Eventually, they got their pickup out of the driveway by cutting a new road through the debris.
It looks like junk or just, crazy right now, but this was a beautiful, well-kept area. Beautiful, all kind of trees, mangoes, coconuts.
All of that has been ripped out.
Oh, nothing.
How are you guys feeling?
Rough. It's rough. We're getting through it. I mean, I'm really surprised. I would say because I've been through the two others, Hugo and Maryland, and this one really took me for a complete loop. The other two, it's been, move the bush and start up the generator, and we're good.
How long do you think it's going to take your family to rebuild?
It's going to be a couple of years, Thinking about it, our infrastructure, we'll probably not get power back in here for the next 8 months.
Residents who have been trapped on St. John since the storm are still making their way off of the island.
We go off the list. That's the way it works. Doesn't matter who's here first. Everybody's going to go. So please be patient.
It's really heartbreaking. And the whole house is gone. Everything is gone. The whole house roof, the side, everything crashed down.
What's next for you?
Well, right now, I have my 2 daughters. They live in Florida, Orlando, and that's where I'm headed to right now. I can't take it. It's too much for me right now.
When the credit agency Equifax reported, a month after the fact, that hackers had breached its security and stolen the personal data of 143 million Americans, politicians blasted the company for its carelessness and warned of the potentially disastrous consequences of the hack.
This Equifax breach hack is at least a Category 4, if not Category 5, cyber hack.
But bluster is easy. Getting the credit bureaus to change their ways is not.
After every hack, politicians talk about the importance of cybersecurity. They just never act on it. Look at Equifax. It's technically a financial institution, and there's even a specific regulation, the Federal Trade Commission Safeguard Rule, that mandates that Equifax design and implement a safeguards program to protect its consumer information. But no one in the government actually enforced that regulation. Why? Because of a regulatory gap. The FTC is supposedly responsible for enforcing the safeguards rule. But since 2010, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has done most of the supervision of Equifax and its competitors. The problem is that it's focused mainly on whether the credit reports are fair and accurate, not on what cybersecurity measures the companies are taking, which means that no one is completely responsible for ensuring the credit bureaus follow the rules. the way the FDA is completely responsible for ensuring drugs are safe. This regulatory gap plays out in all sorts of disastrous ways. Investment banks have regulators who actually work in their offices and audit their performance. Farms and ranches have USDA inspectors who check on the safety of the food they produce. But no one is embedded with credit bureaus to ensure they're protecting your data, even though they have personal information on almost every American adult. On top of all of this, the cybersecurity regulations governing companies like Equifax aren't just vague and hard to enforce. They're also toothless. In the unlikely event a company is found to have broken a rule, the best the FTC can do is get them to agree to fix the problem and then subject them to future monitoring. It can't issue big fines or threaten to put them out of business. Equifax will probably be facing lawsuits from angry customers, but it's not likely ever going to have to pay a dime in fines to Washington, which is one reason the first massive hack of a major financial institution probably won't be the last.
Democratic senators proposed an amendment this week that would buy time for a vulnerable group of immigrants, foreigners who have signed up for the U.S. military. Since 2008, the Defense Department has offered immigrants who join up an accelerated path to citizenship. Instead, they may be getting the opposite. A backlog in security screening for foreign-born recruits has cost many of them their legal immigration status while they wait, which means that they could end up getting kicked out of the country they signed up to serve.
John and Davis are roommates in South Bend, Indiana. They came from China to study accounting. John got his master's degree, Davis dropped out. They both wanted to stay in America, but they couldn't figure out how to qualify for citizenship. And then one night while trolling through YouTube, John saw this video.
美国国防部开办了 MAVNI 项目，专门用于吸引外国籍青年。这些报名参军的年轻人一旦服役，将立即获得公民权。
Okay, let's do push-ups.
That's when John and Davis enlisted in the U.S. Army.
Did you see joining the Army as being like part of becoming American?
Yeah, of course. I see a lot of movie about U.S. military, like say Private Ryan and Lone Survivor. They're all talking about the American soldiers. I think they have a strong American spirit and American value inside the U.S. military, and I want to be a part of it.
John and Davis joined through a program known as MAVNI, short for Military Accessions Vital to the National Interest. It allows visa holders to trade military service for expedited citizenship. But while the program has been heralded as a success, it now has an uncertain future. Immigrants have always been part of the U.S. Armed Forces, but after the Vietnam War, the military restricted enlistment to green card holders. Over the next 30 years, as green cards became harder to get, the number of immigrants in the military dropped. 9/11 changed the military's thinking on all of this, and in response, the Department of Defense created MAVNI.
One of the reasons the U.S. government could not prevent the attacks was that they didn't have enough people who spoke foreign languages to translate intelligence information that the government had received.
Margaret Stock is an immigration attorney and a retired Army Reserve officer. She helped create MAVNI.
What the MAVNI program did was it recruited legal immigrants who were in the U.S. already and who had passed rigorous background checks through the Department of State and the Department of Homeland Security. The idea was to recruit them. They'd sign up for 8 years of military service in exchange for offering their skills to the U.S. Armed Forces, and in return, they would get American citizenship expedited.
MAVNI officially launched in 2008 with 1,000 recruits. Last year, the Pentagon announced the program would be expanded to 5,200 soldiers. To give some sense of scale, that means 8% of all new enlistees would be immigrants seeking citizenship. That was the deal John and Davis signed up for. Forgo the usual process of staying in the country to enlist in the Army. In exchange, they would have their citizenship process expedited.
I was hoping I could get to, before the next semester starts, so I can renew my driver license or everything. But as soon as I told them I'm joining the military, they just terminated my student's visa.
In September 2016, the Pentagon announced that they would curtail the MAVNI program, citing the need for additional security screenings. Then in late June, a memo obtained by several news outlets suggested the DoD was going to cancel 1,800 contracts, leaving those enlistees in the lurch. The security assessment is classified, but there are other reasons why critics are in favor of suspending the program.
The Omaha.
Steve Russell is a congressman from Oklahoma and serves on the House Armed Services Committee.
I'm standing in the Bayah Market in Rashid, Baghdad.
He's an Army veteran, widely credited with being on the team that hunted down Saddam Hussein. He says MAVNI once served a military purpose, but it's turned into an immigration processing program.
It's not about charity or goodwill or any of those things. We want to be charitable and we want to certainly exhibit goodwill, but not under the MAVNI program. It's not about charity. It is about vital technical skill, the finite numbers that might be, and ensuring the people we bring in don't harm the country. They actually help it.
这么多年了不回来看我，唯一盼望你就是有机会回来看看我。
Over 1,000 MAVNI recruits are now stuck in immigration limbo while the Pentagon decides whether to honor their contracts and expedite their citizenship or deport them. John and Davis don't know what will happen to them back in China, where message boards and social media posts have tagged MAVNI recruits as traitors.
If your contract is canceled, if the MAVNI program itself is canceled, what are you going to do?
I don't know. I don't want to think about that. That would be a nightmare for me, a catastrophic nightmare.
I really feel unsafe going back because if I go back, they're probably gonna stop me at the airport to do like investigations.
You know, the Chinese government has already know the program. Maybe already know me. If I get back, I don't know what I will face.
Last night, Kid Rock, the rap rocker turned country singer now threatening to run for Senate, kicked off the first of 6 straight concerts in Detroit. The Kid Rock for Senate chatter began on July 12th, when his website was converted into a makeshift political ad. Since then, questions have swirled. Was it a joke? Could a Kid Rock political run actually happen? But serious candidate or not, Republicans in Michigan like what he brings to the party.
Let's get one thing out of the way first. Privately, Republicans in Michigan do not expect Kid Rock to run for Senate. But they're happy he keeps talking about it.
If he wants to run, I'd be happy to have him on our ticket.
Yeah.
I think it's great that he's on our side of the party. I think it's great that he loves Detroit. I think it's great that he loves his country.
Do you consider Kid Rock an ally of the Republican Party? I mean, I just don't know where that...
100%. He's always been with us. He's played private concerts for it before. He came out for Mitt Romney. He's been Republican day one.
In 2016, Jeff was a co-chair of the state GOP. He wasn't a Trump guy at first, but he's come around.
This is what woke up everybody. Trump woke up the country. Whether it's a fight I have on Facebook, people are talking about the issues. I think the first time in my lifetime, they may be fighting, but they're talking about the issues.
Will you please welcome the next senator of the great state of Michigan, Kid motherfucking Rock!
Kid Rock is performing 6 concerts/political rallies in Detroit this week. Tuesday night was the first. Jeff invited us to watch with him in his suite on the executive level. The plan from Kid Rock World. He'll talk about politics a little each night before making his final announcement at his last Detroit show on September 20th.
What's going on in the world today? Seems the government wants to give everyone health insurance, but wants us all to pay.
His stump speech rhymes.
But a redistribution of wealth seems more like their plan. And I don't believe that you should save, sacrifice, do things by the book, and then have to take care of some deadbeat milking the system, lazy-ass motherfucking man. I say, let gay folks get married if they want, not even close to a Democrat. But things shouldn't be this complicated. And no, you don't get to choose. Because whatever you have between your legs should determine the bathroom that you use.
Does that trans rights thing surprise you?
I think he did the same thing in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, but still, you think it's weird?
I think it's weird he said it at a concert.
It's weird that like he puts in his little speech.
Yeah, I think he did a lot of stuff to rhyme though too. He trying to cover all the hot topics.
There really are Michiganders who want Kid Rock to do this Senate run.
So what do you think about him as a Senate candidate?
I think right now we have such a pollution in politics. I think it'd be a great refreshing choice.
Kid Rock? The rock star?
Why not? Trump, why not?
I don't know. How's that going?
Well, if you just stay off Twitter, maybe a little better.
Jeff says it's up to Kid Rock, but he likes what the guy's doing.
I think he's making people aware of all the issues out there. He's got followers that follow him and believe it.
So it's good for the Michigan GOP for him to make those speeches like he made tonight.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. God bless him.
New York Fashion Week came to a close today, and while most of the focus was on the runways and the front rows, there was also room for less famous people, provided they were willing to do the unfashionable thing, wake up early.
I would describe myself as a crazy fashion fan. If you want to know what's going to be all out in the coming months, you go to New York Fashion Week to know how to make a statement.
So this is going to be my first outfit. I'm wearing Alexander Wang in both outfits. Yeah, thanks. I love it. Okay. So when my mom found out that I wanted to wake up at 4 a.m. to go to a Fashion Week show, she was like, okay, that's kind of crazy, but if you think you'll be able to get in, then do it. I thought I was just like a crazy fashion person out of my friends, but they were like, oh my God, no, we want to go.
Yesterday, while I was sitting in drawing class, I got a notification post from Alexander Wang. The first 100 people to line up at the Alexander Wang NYC flagship store tomorrow morning will receive a wristband to attend Saturday night's Wang Fest. Hello. The last thing that my friend texted me is that there's 95 people in line. He said to hurry. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? Good morning. Oh my God, I'm so hi. Good to see you. Okay, we made it.
I mean, I think you get here and you're already really excited, and then you wait in line with everyone who's also excited, and just like builds you up, and you like all kind of like hype each other up.
1, 2, 3.
This fashion show is like almost like an art installation by your favorite artist. Like you want to go and have the chance to see it. So I feel like people that are passionate about that should get first dibs instead of people that just want to buy a ticket.
We got the wristbands. Woo! Alexander Wang. Where's the people? This starts in less than 10 minutes. Right now we're in Astor Place, which was kept a secret up until around 5 p.m. Yeah. New York Fashion Week is all about standing, waiting in line, being hungry, and most of all, confused. Oh my God.
A movie. Okay, it was worth it. Everything was worth it.
That's Vice News Tonight for Wednesday, September 13th.